Hey guys, it's Destiny, and in today's video, I'm going to be telling you everything you need to know about Honkai Star Rail. And without further ado, let's get straight into it. So to begin, Honkai Star Rail is going to be an open world turn-based RPG where you can fully explore the world, do side quests, main quests, and so on. Throughout the world, there will actually be space anchors, which are similar to the Archon statues in Genshin, where when you approach them, you can actually heal yourself. So this is a way you can heal in the overworld, or rather the open world, and that is just a thing you can do while you are not in combat, similarly to Genshin. Now, the combat is the biggest difference between Star Rail and Genshin Impact and Honkai Impact. So how the combat works is that it's very similar to games like Persona 5, where you need to approach an enemy or they will approach you and the combat starts, which the combat starting cues into basically the turn-based elements of the game. But before you get into a fight, what you can do is break an enemy's defense prior to the battle to have an easier time to fight them. You can break defenses by approaching them and then attacking with an element strong against the enemy, and prior to doing that, you can use your character's technique in the overworld for an additional bonus before the fight. So let me just give you a quick example. Let's say you're using March 7's technique. March 7's technique allows her to basically freeze a random enemy before battle commences if you use her technique. So you initiate the battle, and because you use her technique prior to battle, she will be able to freeze a random enemy at the start of combat. Everyone's technique is different in the game, so you just have to decide whose technique you want to use before battle, and preferably you should use, someone's element who is strong against the enemy, and in the game it'll show you a little bar that will tell you what the enemies are weak to if you aren't sure about that. So once you actually start combat, or if you get forced into it if the enemy actually approaches you instead, the battle system is pretty simple from here, I'd say. So your attack within a turn is based on your speed, and if your speed is higher than the enemy's, then you'll attack before the enemy does, which that's a pretty basic thing for speed stats in most games. If you are faster than the enemy, you will attack before the enemy, and vice versa. If you are slower, you will get attacked, and they will be able to go before you. And throughout battle, you can use normal attacks, skills, and your ultimate. And your team synergy can make battles very smooth, or quite the opposite. Team synergies and comps will be very essential to this game, especially because it is turn-based, and having those dedicated supportive characters with damage dealers will be very important for harder content throughout the game. Additionally, if you are enjoying this video so far and this video is helping you out, make sure to hit the subscribe button and let's carry on. As for the actual characters, there are 7 elements and 7 paths. What the elements are basically, well, what elements are in most games. It is what a character's element is, and what their element is what damage they will deal. Such as if a character is a fire element, they'll do fire damage, such as Himiko in Honkai Star Rail. She is a fire character, or rather a fire element character, so she will inflict fire damage. The paths are classes, however, which are basically the intended roles. And for the intended roles, I can give you a few examples. So there can be preservation, which is the tank role. As you know, most tanks are defensive and they do their best to keep your other teammates alive while taking as much damage on themselves as possible. The hunt is one of the DPS classes, and that class specializes in single target DPS and having really high speed, kind of like a hunter or an assassin class, I would say, since they typically specialize in doing high amounts of single target damage and also having a high amount of speed. But because of that, they're usually like glass cannons, so they do a lot of damage, but they take a lot of damage in return due to low defenses. So having a tank or support character would be really good in this case if you are using the hunt, or rather a character with the hunt as one of their paths. And then another one is the nihility, which is a debuffer class, which basically can debuff the enemies, and typically speaking, they'll likely be able to debuff and possibly also buff your team, but that is not 100% guaranteed. But being able to debuff your enemies is also really good to have, since you'll be able to lower their defenses, lower their attack, inflict status elements, and so on, since some of the characters can actually inflict status elements, such as March 7th, she's able to freeze enemies. Serval is able to shock enemies, which when you shock them, they take damage as the turns go on, and so on. Additionally, all of the characters will have affiliations, which is basically just the group they're a part of. Example, Himiko is the Astral Express, March 7th is the Astral Express, and Kafka is the Stellaron Hunters. And this is really similar to Genshin Impact since, in Genshin, every character is part of a region such as Liyue, Inazuma, and so on. Now for the gacha system, some of the characters are free throughout the game, and you can actually get Serval for free if you do the pre-registration, which is basically registering for the game before the game is out. And how the gacha works is that there are 4 and 5-star characters like Genshin Impact. The currency is Star Rail passes, which are tickets to summon, and there's regular Star Rail passes and special ones. The special ones are for limited banners, and the regular ones are for the standard banner. It is actually really similar to the standard fates and the intertwined fates in Genshin. As for the currency though, out of the passes, there is Stellar Jade. Stellar Jade is similar, if not the exact same as Primo Gems, and you can obtain passes in Stellar Jade throughout the story, and I'm sure there'll be a multitude of ways to get them, such as events, once again those story quests, the abyss in the game, and so on. Additionally, you get 20 Star Rail passes and once again that free Serval if you pre-register for the game prior to launch, which getting those 20 Star Rail passes can actually be really good in the case if you do want to reroll in this game, since if you have those 20 passes and whatever you are likely going to get on launch day, since most games give you a lot on launch day, then we'll likely be able to reroll as well. As for weapons though, which there are weapons as well in this game, they will be referred to as light cones in Star Rail. You can get them the same way you get characters. Think of light cones as the 3, 4, and 5-star rarity weapons in Genshin, if that makes it the easiest possible to think of them as. Next up is the talent system. Talents are called traces, and depending on the path you take with traces, you can upgrade your skills, attacks, and so on. You can also farm relics, which are just like artifacts, and you can get magic relics to have set bonuses to make your team stronger. So overall, there are a lot of features in Star Rail. I try to basically sum up all the main ones that really do matter, how the game works, how the combat works, how the gacha system works, and so on. Once the game is out, I of course will be covering that way more in depth. And if I do get into the last closed beta, I will be making a lot of videos out of that as well and updating you guys on more information. But if I do not, I will likely just look into things that are in the closed beta so you guys can know that as well. And when the game is out, I will be giving you guys tips, guides, tricks, all the good stuff basically. And if you guys do want to see all of that, and this video did help you out to understand Star Rail a lot more, which surprisingly enough, I feel like if you played Genshin, Star Rail isn't too different. I just feel like the combat system and the paths is the main difference in my opinion. Because I feel like a lot of the things are definitely similar to Genshin, such as how to summon. Even though there are Star Rail tickets instead of the fates, it's still a really similar system. Like there's basically Stellar Jade as in Primo Gems. There is the talent system, which are called traces instead. There's relics like artifacts. Like there's a lot of similarities. So I feel like if you played Genshin, it'll be really easy for you to also transition into this game. You just have to get used to the turn-based combat, which I did explain obviously in this video. So overall, I hope you guys enjoyed. Make sure to subscribe for more, obviously, if you want more guides, reactions even, because I will be doing reactions as well soon once we get more trailers and so on. And once again, if this video did help you out, let me know down in the comments below. Tell me if you're excited for Honkai Star Rail and if this video once again helps you guys out. And I hope you all have a nice one. Peace.